In the aftermath of what can only be described as the most spectacular studio meltdown in recent Hollywood memory, Continental Studios is facing a seismic shift in its company culture. During the chaotic CinemaCon presentation that ended with CEO Griffin repeatedly shouting, "Movies!" before collapsing on stage, it wasn't just Griffin's drug-fueled antics that caught industry attention. It was studio head Matt's unexpectedly heartfelt declaration to his team that has insiders buzzing about what this means for Continental's future corporate culture and leadership dynamics. The moment came during what should have been a standard Hollywood presentation. Continental Studios was under immense pressure, with Amazon's acquisition looming over their heads like the sword of Damocles. Griffin had made it crystal clear to Matt that if they didn't absolutely nail their CinemaCon presentation, showing the financial viability of Continental as an independent studio, they'd all be out of jobs when Amazon took over. What transpired instead was a presentation so disastrous it may go down in entertainment history. But oddly, it might have been exactly what Continental needed. As disaster piled upon disaster, Dave Franco beaten and bloodied after winning too much money gambling, Zoe Kravitz experiencing ego death from excessive psychedelics, and CEO Griffin quite literally non-functional, Matt found himself standing alone on stage. In that moment of crisis, he did something rarely seen in the cutthroat world of Hollywood executives. He called his entire team out to join him on stage, and in front of the assembled industry heavyweights, declared, "I used to think this studio was the absolute most important thing in my entire life. But you all are the absolute most important things in my entire life." This stunningly vulnerable moment represented a complete reversal of Matt's previous approach to management. Throughout Continental's ups and downs, Matt has often been portrayed as ambitious, sometimes ruthlessly so. His focus has typically been on the bottom line, on making hits, on keeping the studio afloat in an increasingly challenging theatrical market. People who've worked with Matt describe him as talented but often laser-focused on success at any cost. That's what makes his CinemaCon declaration so revolutionary for Continental's internal dynamics. By publicly acknowledging that his team means more to him than the institution itself, Matt has fundamentally redefined what success looks like at Continental. It's no longer just about box office numbers or impressing shareholders. It's about the people who make up the creative community that is Continental Studios. The timing couldn't be more significant. With Amazon circling, Continental faces the very real prospect of becoming another casualty of big tech's Hollywood conquest. The fear of getting MGM, as former executive Patty so aptly put it, hangs over everyone's heads. When major tech companies acquire studios, they often impose their corporate culture, metrics-driven decision-making, and algorithmic approaches to creative choices. By declaring his loyalty to his team over the institution, Matt has signaled that whatever happens with the Amazon deal, preserving the human relationships and creative partnerships that make Continental special is his priority. This shift in perspective could radically alter how Continental operates going forward. Executives who previously might have felt like cogs in a corporate machine now know their boss values them as people first. Creative decisions might be approached differently when the well-being and input of team members takes precedence over purely financial considerations. In an industry increasingly dominated by data and algorithms, Matt's declaration represents a radical recommitment to the human element of filmmaking. The effects were immediately visible in how the team rallied around Matt during the presentation disaster. After his heartfelt speech, former adversaries like Patty fully committed to helping him save the day, demonstrating the power of authentic connection over corporate hierarchy. The team's willingness to go to absurd lengths, including the Weekend at Bernie's scheme to transport an incapacitated Griffin across the casino floor, shows how Matt's leadership style has fostered genuine loyalty among his colleagues. It's particularly significant that Patty was there at all. Her return to help in Continental's time of need, initially planning revenge against Griffin but ultimately supporting Matt, underscores how Matt's approach to leadership differs from Griffin's. While Griffin had fired Patty unceremoniously, Matt clearly maintained a relationship with her built on mutual respect. His declaration that she is among the most important things in his life could rebuild that bridge permanently, potentially bringing Patty back into the Continental fold regardless of what happens with Amazon. The power dynamic between Matt and Griffin has also been fundamentally altered by this moment. Griffin's spectacular public meltdown, contrasted with Matt's emotional maturity and teen-focused leadership, creates a compelling case for Matt to assume more control at Continental. Whether Amazon proceeds with the acquisition or not, it's difficult to imagine Griffin maintaining his position after such a public embarrassment. Matt's steady hand and demonstrated commitment to his team positions him as the natural successor. For the individual team members, Matt's declaration transforms their relationship with their work. Maya, Quinn, Tyler, Sal, and Petra now know their value not just for what they contribute to Continental's bottom line, but for who they are. This shift from transactional to relational leadership could inspire greater creativity, risk-taking, and honest communication, all qualities that could help Continental thrive creatively regardless of corporate ownership. Industry analysts are already speculating about how this might affect Amazon's acquisition plans. On one hand, Griffin's meltdown could lower Continental's valuation, making it an even more attractive purchase. On the other hand, Matt's demonstrated leadership qualities and the evident loyalty of his creative team might convince Amazon that Continental has something special worth preserving rather than absorbing. If Amazon is smart, they might see Matt and his approach as an asset, a leader who can navigate the human complexities of creative businesses in ways that tech-focused executives often cannot. For movie fans and industry observers, Matt's moment represents something even more significant, a public acknowledgement that the people who make movies matter more than the corporate structures that finance and distribute them. In an era when streaming services are increasingly treating films as content, and filmmakers as interchangeable content providers, Matt's declaration that the people are what truly matter feels like a necessary corrective. What happens next at Continental will be watched closely by the entire industry. If Matt can leverage his moment of authentic leadership into a more permanent shift in how the studio operates, regardless of ownership, it could become a model for how traditional Hollywood studios might adapt to the streaming era without losing their creative souls. By putting people first, Continental might find a way to navigate the tech takeover of Hollywood while preserving what makes movies special in the first place. It's worth noting that Matt's declaration came after a night of accidental psychedelic use, raising the question of whether this newfound perspective will persist once the mushrooms wear off. But the public nature of his statement, and the evident sincerity with which it was delivered, suggests this wasn't just a drug-induced moment of clarity, but rather a genuine realization that had been building for some time. As Continental moves forward from the CinemaCon disaster, the true test will be whether Matt's words translate into lasting changes in how the studio operates. If they do, Continental might emerge from this crisis not weaker but stronger, a studio that understands its greatest assets aren't its intellectual property or its distribution deals, but the creative relationships that bring movies to life. In a Hollywood increasingly dominated by algorithms and quarterly earnings reports, that could be Continental's secret weapon for survival.